right, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our first time home buyers workshop, preparing to purchase your first home. Thank you everyone who was able to make it out this evening. And for those of you who are watching us on YouTube or on our social media pages, we thank you for viewing in. We are excited to get started with this workshop this evening. Just to let you know, we do have some norms for our webinar. So one, everybody is on mute at the current moment, just to eliminate any background noise. However, we would love to hear your voice and we would love to see your face. So if you would love to turn on your camera, we would appreciate it. And feel free to unmute yourself anytime you have a question or a comment for our guest speaker. Also, feel free to make use of the chat box and the raise hand features. We want to see any comments, questions, or thoughts that you have throughout this webinar in our workshop today. So just to let you guys know, for those of you who have not been with us before, this webinar is brought to you by the Center for Economic Empowerment at Love Zion. This organization was founded at the beginning of 2019 in order to bring training, resources, and any kind of informational or educational tools and resources that we can for the long-term economic freedom and empowerment for the residents of North Philadelphia and Greater Philadelphia. This is now our 6th or 7th webinar in our series. We began at the start of COVID by bringing you virtual webinars to really provide you information to not only get through COVID-19 and the circumstances that we find ourselves in now, but also to help you excel through these times and even afterwards. If you have any questions about the Center for Economic Empowerment or questions about our speakers, our webinar series, feel free to visit our website, follow us on Facebook, visit our YouTube page. All of our previous webinars are on YouTube, and tonight's webinar will also be posted to YouTube. And feel free to email us at any time you have any personal questions or want some really specific information. We would love to hear from you. That being said, without further ado, we're going to jump straight into our webinar this evening. And we have a special guest, Leon Dale III. Just to give you guys some more information about him, he was born at Temple University and raised in Philadelphia. He has called Philadelphia his home his entire life. With his mother as an acquisition specialist of corporate real estate for over 25 years and a father who has owned a home remodeling company for over 10 years, you can say Leon was born to sell real estate. He is adamant in providing his clientele with exceptional customer service, coupled with his knowledge of Philadelphia, makes him a real estate expert you can feel confident in working with. Leon loves spending time with family and friends, traveling, playing, and debating sports, as well as eating at all the great restaurants that Philadelphia has to offer. And I miss every single last one of those restaurants. Like, no lie. So with that being said, I am not going to waste any time, and I am going to turn it over to our speaker. Leon, feel free to take over. We thank you so much for coming and sharing your resources with us this evening. So welcome and feel free to take it over.
Awesome. Thank you, Jessica. First, I'd just like to, thank you for, having me. It's definitely an honor just to give back, my knowledge and help others as much as I can. So again, thank you. And thank you for everyone, tuning in or will tune in. So, let's not waste any more time and kind of get straight to the point here of, buying a first home or just buying a first piece of property. So the first steps of buying a home, I would say is, not because I am one, but is to find or hire a realtor. The great thing about hiring a realtor, the first thing, it's free, especially if you're on the buyer side. You don't have to pay a service. The selling side pays the fee for the buyer's commission. So a person that's, looking for a home, you hiring a realtor, you're basically getting a free service. From there, what a realtor does is a realtor, pretty much is the conductor for orchestra, if we use that as an example. So basically the realtor will put all the pieces together, call this person, set up that appointment, negotiate for on your behalf. But more importantly, the relationships that the realtor has makes the transition as a first-time home buyer much smoother. makes it much more simpler, for the buyer. And with that, what I mean by that is the relationships such as having a lender. So the first step, honestly, it's to, yes, find a realtor, but you do need to have the finances in order to buy a property. Hiring a realtor will help with that process, because they have relationships, and they can more so point you in the right direction of dealing with the right lenders, and giving you different options. So once you find a realtor that you feel comfortable working with, ask them to point you into the direction of lenders. So once you find that realtor, he or she points you to um, a lender. Then it's a matter of taking steps to get pre-approval. So once you find a realtor, the next step to buying a home is getting a pre-approval. So getting a pre-approval, there a few things that you'll need to do to get the pre-approval process started. The first is finding a lender. So what I do with my clientele is I give them 2 to 3 options, and the reason why I give them 2 to 3 options is like it's a major investment, and the people that you're working with, you're going to want as much information as possible, and you want to get the best rates as possible. So therefore, you're going to want some options. It's just like buying a car. You don't just, jump in the car and move on. You test drive, you go see different cars, you try to price point. So dealing with multiple lenders will definitely help you. And you can do all that, in a short time frame, and it won't affect your credit score getting a pre-approval. So what I try to tell a lot of people is to get a pre-approval early on in the process. The things that you'll need to get a pre-approval, you'll need the last 2 years of tax returns, the last 2 months of bank statements, a month or two of pay stubs, and then they'll run your background check. I mean, they'll not your background check, they'll run your credit check, just to make sure that you qualify for a loan. All right, so the different types of loans that you can get. Most first-time home buyers, they use FHA. So FHA is beneficial, but you can also do conventional. FHA is really more so for someone that doesn't have the credit. So if your credit score is below a 620, then more than likely you're going to want to go with FHA. And the reason that is, it gives you the ability to still buy even though your credit score isn't there. But also it gives you the ability to put less down. So if your credit score is below a 620, then more than likely you're going to go FHA. Now, if your credit score is a 580 plus, then you could put down as low as 3.5% down for FHA loan. All right, so for you to obtain the loan, your credit score has to be above a 580, and therefore you can put down 3.5% towards the loan. If your credit score is 500, between 500 and 579, then you'll have to put 10% down on the loan. So it's more so just, you're a riskier buyer, when your credit score is lower. So it's definitely important to try to get your credit score above a 620. Therefore, if you're above a 620, I would honestly recommend going conventional. And the reason why I say go conventional is because the interest rates are much lower when you go conventional compared to FHA. So those are kind of the 2 options that you'll have. You'll have the conventional and you have the FHA. Another benefit about an FHA is that you're eligible up to 6% on seller's assist. So seller's assist, pretty much, for example, if I was selling you a home, if you wanted to buy my home for $100,000 and I was the seller, then I would help you at closing costs with closing costs up to 6%. So therefore $6,000, me as a seller will help you close on the property. Now it's a plus for the buyer because that's less money you have to come to the table, but it's a detriment to the seller because that's money that's not going in their pocket. So for example, if the house was $100,000 and I didn't know a mortgage, and I planned on walking away with 100,000, but you're asking for 6% seller's assist, therefore I'm only walking away with 94,000. So hopefully that makes sense. So it's a negotiation when you get under contract and you're trying to negotiate um, and make an offer on a home. The thing that's hurting buyers now, I have multiple buyers that, some of them do need FHA and some of them are FHA and some of them do need sales assist, but the issue now is there are more buyers than there are properties. So therefore, the supply and demand, um, that's the issue there. So there's not enough inventory, even though there's more buyers. So therefore, the price points are going up and what do you want to call it? Um, I lost train of thought. Oh yeah, so the what is it? The buy the buyers are is it's geez, I lost train of thought real quick. So the buyer it's a bidding war. So again, so excuse me, it's a bidding war. So somebody that's asking for seller's assist more than likely is going to lose to somebody that isn't asking for seller's assist. All right. So if you need sales assist, not saying that, you cannot buy a home. It's if you're going against somebody, that's making the same offer, but not asking for sales assist, more than likely the seller is going to go with the person that doesn't need sales assist. Hopefully that makes sense. Um, Another benefit of going FHA is that you can get gifts from family members. All right. So, you can use it from your retirement account. You can give a gift from the family member, and that can go towards your closing costs. So they can pay for the whole thing. They can give you a certain amount. So let's say your closing cost was $10,000. Then, mom or dad, grandma, cousin, they can give you, a gift towards closing costs. The only thing about that is that the money has to be accounted for. So it's not like you can just go and, somebody just randomly give you $10,000 and, good, you bought a house. The lender is going to want to know where that money comes from, and at least, and want to see it in their account for at least a month. So it's not like you can just a week later, somebody just come across $10,000 and they give it to you and you're good to go. So the lender is going to want to know where those funds come from. All right. Um, Trying to think what else here. So we did the gifts. Another thing that you have to realize when you go FHA is called mortgage insurance premium. All right. So this is a fee that the government charges you because you're putting such a limited amount of money down up front. All right. So you're more of a you're riskier buyer. The government looks at it as, if that makes sense. So it's called a mortgage insurance premium, MPI, and pretty much they charge you a monthly. You have an upfront fee, but then you also have a monthly fee, and that stays on your mortgage. That's included into your mortgage payment for a certain amount of time, and a certain amount of time pretty much depends on what the government feels is enough equity in your home. So they'll do their calculations, and they'll say, for the next 7 years, 8 years, you'll have to pay, this amount of money towards your mortgage insurance premium. And pretty much what that money is, it's money reserved just in case you default on your loan. All right. So if you default on your loan, your lender can go to the government and get that money. So therefore they're covered, and the home will go back to the government, FHA, and then they'll, that's where the foreclosures and all that stuff comes into effect. All right. So if you go FHA and you go under 20%, then you know, you're going to get the MPI, the mortgage insurance premium that you're going to have to pay for. All right. And that goes the same thing with conventional. If you do under 20%, you're going to have to pay private mortgage insurance. All right. So it's pretty much the same thing, just different terminologies for different loans. If you decide to go conventional, all right, so FHA is one way. If you decide to go conventional, your credit score is a 620 plus, then I would suggest going conventional because your interest rates are lower. So that's more money that's less money that you'll have to pay over time because your interest rates are lower. Now with conventional, if you put under 10% down, you still can get seller's assist, but you can only get 3%.
Mhm.
If you go above, if you pay 10%, right, then you can get up to 6%. So conventional, you're putting 10% down and above, you can get up to 6% sales assist. If you're putting less than 10% down, you can only get 3%. All right. You still can get help from family and friends, but it's limited. All right. So it's not as grand scale as if you were going FHA. All right. Um, Now, when trying to obtain a loan, a few things that people really have to take in consideration is called their DTI. It's called their debt to income ratio. All right. So think of it as tug of war. All right. So, the whole rope is 100%. So, the center of the rope is 100%. If you pull, your income as you make more, you're pulling away from your debt. Right? If your debt is more than your income, or not so much more than your income, but is has a big percentage of your income, then that's not good. So pretty much you want your debt to income ratio to be about 30%. All right. So 30% of your income should go towards your debt. That's what lenders are going to look at to see how much money they're going to lend you. So debt to income, the factors that they look at, student loans, car payments, child support. Um, what else do we have? Credit cards. All right, so those are some of the major things that they're going to look at. Um, you want to make sure your child support's up to date. Now, for student loans, and now if your student loans are in deferment, they're going to take 1% of what you owe. So if you owe $50,000, right, for student loans, they're going to factor in $500 towards your debt, and they're going to use that against your debt to income. They're going to use that against your income. All right. So again, you want your debt to income ratio to be 30% or less. All right. And that kind of qualifies you as a good buyer. All right. Or the more money you can borrow. Another factor again is your credit score. Your credit score pretty much determines your interest rate. All right. So if your credit score is great, then your interest rate is going to be low. All right. And what they do, they factor in both your debt to income, your interest rate. They put it in an equation and they'll say, okay, then you can borrow this much money, at this interest rate for 30 years. All right. And that's how much they'll factor in your monthly payments. All right. So, being eligible for that, these are things that you're definitely going to want to take into consideration, when applying for a loan. So you want to have all your paperwork together. You want to have your debt to income at a certain number, 30% or lower. Um, Now, savings, having money in the bank. So that's important because you do have closing costs. All right. So what I recommend is 10 to 12% in your savings, um, compared to the purchase price. So whatever the purchase price is, you want to have 10 to 12% of that, in your savings account. All right, to be ready to buy. And the reason why I say that is, yes, you can get sales assist, and I've had experiences where people have only spent $2,000 on their closing costs because they've it's been covered by the sales assist. But like I said earlier, with the supply and demand and the way houses are flying off the market now, it's hard to get sellers assist. Not saying that it's impossible, but you're going against people that don't need it. So try to prepare yourself to not have to rely on it. And the way you do that is having a great credit score, having your DTI low, and also having the about 10 to 12% of the purchase price in your savings account ready for closing. So those are the things that are definitely beneficial and definitely things that you're going to want to take in consideration when trying to obtain a loan. So let me see here. So we got that 10%, 30% mortgage premium. Okay. Sales assist. Just going through my notes here. Also with the conventional, if you do 20% or more down payment, there is no mortgage insurance premium. All right. So that's something that you don't have to pay. when you put 20% down or more. Now, what I get a lot of customers or a lot of clients that want to go look at homes immediately, but they don't have a pre-approval. To be honest, it's counterproductive. To be honest with you, because and here's the reason why. You have no idea what you can afford, and you want to go look at homes. So how are we looking at homes when you don't know what you can afford? So the first step is to really find out how much you can afford. So again, the first step is obtaining a pre-approval. Once you have the pre-approval, then looking at homes can be very easy. It's just a matter of time and what's available. So the benefits of getting a pre-approval, and this is why it's important. One, it's free. That's
Mhm.
probably the most important one. It's free. It's a free evaluation of your finances, and it doesn't. The only thing that may affect your credit score, because it's a hard inquiry. It may affect your credit score 3 to 4 points, but it's nothing drastic. But it's a great tool because again, it's free. It lets you know your financial situation. So which if you need your credit score to improve, you can see it. If you need more money in the bank to buy, you can see it. If you need to get your DTI down, they'll explain those things to you. So a pre-approval lasts normally about 2 months, 60 days. Once it runs out, you know, depending on the lender, you really don't have, they don't really don't have to run credit again. They just have to, update some pay stubs, and you can get a pre-approval again very quickly. But even still, if you wanted to see where you were now, even though you're 6 months away, a year away, you can get the pre-approval now just to see like, okay, these are the things I need to improve to get to the number that I want to get to. Whether that's, get a new job, cut down on some expenses, save some more money. But a pre-approval is definitely something that's definitely beneficial. And I think it's not, I don't think, I know it's the first step to buying a home. Like you're wasting time if you're going to a realtor and say, I want to look at a bunch of homes, and you have no idea, what you can afford. So the first thing again is to get the pre-approval. Once you get the pre-approval, is now it's a matter of what's best for you, because at the end of the day, this is an investment. You can do long-term investment or short-term investment. I break it down in those two. And long-term is 15 years to the end of your loan. So that's a long-term investment. A short-term investment where, 5 to 10 years, you're in it, it's kind of a startup home, and you fix it up, you make some improvements over time, and then you sell it and you get the equity out of it. So that's kind of a short-term investment, but it's still an investment. It's you're buying to make money from this property. And that's, even if you do long-term, you can refi later on. It may be hard to refi now, with these interest rates being so low. I mean, I think I saw somebody's like 2.75, which is amazing. The fact that they're below 3 right now. So it's definitely a good time to buy, if you have everything in order. So again, once you get the pre-approval, you want to start looking at homes. The best thing to do from there is figure out a timeline. Like, what's your timeline? How long do you have? How fast do you want to be in this new home? Typically, settlement. So let's say you get under contract. We go through all the process, and we'll talk more about the contract and negotiating and making an offer and things that are needed for that. But let's say we're at the end of it. We need to know when you need to be inside of a home. So that lets me know as a realtor, lets other people, let other realtors know how quickly or how active we need to be to find you a new home. So let's say if you needed 60 days, typically closing takes about 30 to 45 days. A settlement takes about 30 to 45 days if you have everything together. So I would say on average 45 days. So 30 days at the soonest with lending. So if you're getting lending and financing for your home, so it takes about 30 to 45 days. So you have to know, all right, once I get under contract, it's going to take about 30 to 45 days. I want to be in my home by this time. Um, so if you want to be in your home by, let's say, January 1, by mid-November, you should have, know exactly what you want to buy, and be under contract for that. So just understanding that as well. Also, another thing that I wanted to mention with the difference between FHA and conventional is the appraisal process. So with FHA, you're using the government's appraiser, and with conventional, you're using the bank's appraiser. Now, the difference between the two is FHA is more of you have to jump through another hole, or another hoop more so. And with that being said, is the FHA appraiser, he's going to come out and he's going to um, base his appraiser base his appraisement off of not just the price of the home, but also the safety of the home. So, for example, with the FHA, if the home has lead-based paint chippings, on the railings, then he's going to require the seller to fix those things. Um, if there's a tripping hazard on the sidewalk, then they're going to, ask that to be fixed. If there's missing handrails going down the steps in the basement or outside, they're going to ask them to, those things are going to need to happen before you actually close on the property and get the keys to your new home. So again, sellers don't always like dealing with FHA because of those things. So sometimes it's been, like I said, if your credit score is above a 620 plus, then go conventional, because that's one less hoop you have to jump through. And it makes it more appealing to the seller when they're getting multiple offers. So if it's a property that a lot of people like, then that's one less hoop that they have to jump through. So they'll look at, okay, deal A and deal B. So deal A, they both are the same offers, one conventional and one's FHA, same offer. They're going to go with the conventional because that's one less hoop that they have to jump through, to sell their home. All right. Because if the FHA appraisal comes back and says this needs to be done, that needs to be done, then the seller is going to be obligated to fix it before they can sell the home. And sellers, in all honesty, don't want to do anything but collect their check. So that's just the reality of it. So so either, if you have the ability to go conventional, please do. If you don't, and you wanting to go FHA, there's nothing wrong with that either. Just know that it could be, especially in today's market, it could be a little tougher for you to, buy the home that you're looking for, especially if it's a competitive home. And, a lot of people are interested in it, which is, typical of what's going on right now. Um, so that's that. So now you found it, you're out here looking for homes. So the things you need to kind of prepare yourself when looking for home is, one, time. So you have to be willing to time and grind. That's how I like to say, because it can be very time consuming, and also can be frustrating at times, especially if, like, most people think they're going to find a home in the first week. And sometimes that does happen, but we have to understand that this is a process, and it may take some time. I've had clients where it's taken us 3-4 months, and they have to still kind of be engaged in the process, because again, it can be frustrating. So if you find that, while you're out looking for your home, just have some patience, have some trust in the person that you're working with, and understand that they can't build the home for you. All they can do is provide you what's available. So as you're looking through, the best thing to do is kind of narrow down what you're looking for, and but also understand that if you're at a certain price point, you may have to make some sacrifices in what you want. I know a lot of buyers, they come in and say, oh, I want, finished basement. I want the private parking. I want central air. I want the brand new kitchen, brand new bathrooms. They have all their wants, and that's great. There's nothing wrong with that. But we also have to be realistic and understanding what you can afford. So that's another reason why you want to get a pre-approval. So, when you're out looking, you know exactly what we're looking for. We're not out here wasting time. Whether that's my time, and honestly, it's more importantly your time. Um, so we want to make sure that you get we're looking for exactly for what you want. But then also understanding that, if it's not there, then you're going to have to make some sacrifices. What can you live without? Can you live without central air? Can you live without the private parking? Can you live without this? Can you live without that? So just making those decisions. And again, I can't make those decisions. you'll have to make the decision for yourself. All I can do is show you what's available, and you'll start to see, what I need to do. Like I have clients that say, "Hey, I want all these things, but I only want to spend $200,000." But for all those things that they want, they may have to go to 350. So, and again, I'm just giving you numbers, but just that's just the concept that people have to understand that what you want may not be there, and you may have to make some decisions whether I want less of it, or if I want more, I have to go up in my price point. So that's kind of trying to narrow down your search and looking for homes. As you start getting into the homes and you start looking at these homes, some of the things you want to look at are this the condition of the home, and what you're looking for, because you have kind of two options. The first option is, do you want to fix her upper, something you will walk into, you want to put some money into and take the equity out and get quicker equity out of the property? Or do you want a turnkey? Turnkey is, I'm walking in, I'm just putting my furniture in there, everything's already done. All right, so it's one of those things where you have to decide what you want. Now, if you decide you want to go a fixer upper, the questions you have to ask yourself, especially if you're going FHA, is do you have somebody to do some repairs? Because sometimes the seller isn't always willing to do the repairs. And if we have homes out here that people are selling them as is and they don't want to do any work to them, you still can buy the home. And then when the FHA appraiser comes around and says these repairs need to be done, you have the ability to fix them yourself on your own dime. So just because the seller, says they don't want to do any repairs doesn't mean you can't buy the home. It's just a matter of, do you have the personnel to do it, and also do you have the extra funds to do it? So these are some of the decisions you're going to have to make, when you're deciding if you want to do, go through FHA and buy a home that's as is, or buy a home that needs some repairs. Now with conventional, you don't have to worry about that. If there's some repairs at the end that need to be done, there's that appraiser, the conventional appraiser, he's just going to, more so run the numbers than anything. So that's that. Let's go here. So yeah, so I mean, so now if you want to fixer upper, the thing with the fixer upper is that, not the fixer up, the turnkey property. When you jump into a turnkey property, you don't get the equity right away. You have to wait till the area appreciates. All right, so if you're buying turnkey, more than likely you're already buying at the top of the market in that area. Therefore it's probably rehabbed. It has all the fixings, all the finishes that you want. So therefore you're buying at the top of the property, and your price point is going to be higher to what that area is demanding, or commanding at the time. And again, there's nothing wrong with buying rehab home, but what you also have to understand with rehab homes are, everybody may not be as thorough as you want them to be. So with a lot of these rehab homes, you may walk in and you may question, like, what the heck did this person think, or what were they doing, or the contractor that they hired were terrible. So you definitely have to walk in, and take the rose glasses off and kind of look at all the little things that make the property what it is. And sometimes, like, what I tell my clients to do is walk in the property and determine all the flaws in the property. If you can walk in a property and there's not many flaws, then that's a sound house. But if you walk in a property and you start picking out all this and that, and the list gets longer and longer, then it becomes a problem, especially if you're buying turnkey. Now, if you're buying as is, that's a different story. Then some things are wrong, and it's a matter of how much does it cost to fix. All right. So as you're walking through these properties, things that you want to kind of focus on are, first thing is, I look up, are there any water damage in the walls, in the ceilings? That, if there's water damage, especially in the second floor, if there's water damage, that means there's roof issues. That means that's a big problem. The next thing you need to look at are the mechanical. So you're looking at your HVAC, you're looking at your plumbing, you're looking at your electrical. Walk into the box, see how many slots are left open in the electrical panel. If there's no slots, that means more likely you're going to have to upgrade your electrical. Checking, are there two-prong outlets in the home, or are there three-prong? If they're two-prong outlets, then more likely your electrical is dated, and it's gonna cost, to get that updated. Depending on, exactly, what needs to be done, but you'll have to hire an electrician to get those things done. But again, that costs money. Your HVAC, understanding, making sure that's up to date. When's the last time it was serviced? How new is it? Hot water heater. So these are a lot of things, that you're going to want to walk around and look at the home. The smell. So people, I walk through homes a lot, and you smell cat. You smell cat urine. And to be honest, cat urine is maybe one of the hardest things to get rid of, because if you do not know exactly where it's at, then it's going to be a tough time, getting it out of the home. And then if it gets into the wood, the actual hardwood of the floor, or in the walls, then you're having some other issues as well. So I mean, if you can live with the cat smell, like I can't live with it, I hate it. So it's definitely terrible, and it's hard to get rid of. So these are things that you kind of want to walk through and kind of see. And windows, look at the windows. How new are they? These are, when you're buying a home, you want to look at all the big ticket items. If there's big ticket items that you're going to have to fix, they become problems, because now you have a mortgage and you have to fix things, and that, it takes longer to get the money out of your investment. So, buying a home can be very simple. It's just a matter of understanding what you're looking for, understanding the process, having the pre-approval, going out, looking at the homes. And also, so like I tell a lot of my clients when we go look at homes as well, try to limit it to 5 homes a day. And the reason why I say that is because you start looking at, and again, I've had people, they've been in a tight crunch, and we've seen 10 homes in a day. But if you have time, kind of space it out, because what happens is the homes start looking alike, and you lose track of exactly what each home was. So you can see 5 homes, and you go back home, and you're like, hey, what the home number 2 look like? I don't remember. Oh, well, no, that wasn't the house. It was this one. So it can start being confusing for you. So I try to limit my clients to 4 to 5 homes at the most in a day, so they can go back home and reflect and decide if that's something that they want to do and move forward with. The next thing, again, where do you want to live? Location is key. Real estate is location, location, location. Depending on your price point, again, it really may be hard to live in certain areas. You may be obligated to stay in certain areas that you may not want to be, just because of price point, but that shouldn't deter you, because again, areas turn over, and they can turn over quickly. From my understanding, Northern Liberty used to be a cesspool for drugs, and now there's $1 million homes there. So it's just a matter of being at the right time in the right place. But the only way you can be at the right time in the right place is have some type of ownership. So when it does turn over, that you have something. So that's finding the home. I know we're getting closer to time. I'm trying to move forward as fast as I can, but because there's a lot of information I want to give you. So the next thing, I really want to, stress that people need to understand is the timeline when it comes to actually being under contract. So let's say you get the pre-approval, you're out, you find a home that you're looking for, you see that it has, kind of everything that you're looking for, and you're ready to make an offer. So these are the things that's needed to make an offer. Again, your pre-approval, which is important. So you definitely need your pre-approval. So we have to submit your pre-approval to the listing side. We have the seller's disclosure. So the seller's disclosure is the seller letting you, the buyer, know what improvements have taken place, or maintenance repairs have taken place since they've owned the property. So again, if you're trying to buy my property, and I've owned it for 5 years, the seller's disclosure is going to break down exactly what I've done to that property over the last 5 years. And you have to review it. You have to sign off on it. You have to sign off on the agreement of sale. So the agreement of sale pretty much is pretty much a timeline document that's stating what needs to be done and then the price point and who's doing what and what's getting done and what's agreed upon. And the seller and the buyer will definitely agree, have to sign on both of that to move forward. All right. And then the last thing is you need an earnest money deposit check. So just to give you a quick timeline of how it works is, so let's say, for example, we go into contract January 1. And again, I'm just giving you a number just to keep it simple. So we go into contract January 1. Remember, it takes 30 to 45 days to settle on a property. So therefore, settlement more than likely would be mid-February. From January 1, once everything's signed and agreed, we have 5 days to submit our deposit money check. All right, this is earnest money check, or as some call it as well. Now, this goes towards your closing costs as well. All right, so it's not just money that's just in the air. It goes towards your closing costs. But for a contract to be binding, money has to be exchanged. All right, so you can put as low as $1 if you want. You can put as high as you want. The benefit of with FHA, the lowest I go is $2,000. Now, the earnest money pretty much tells the seller how invested you are in buying their property. All right. So if you put $1 down, that doesn't give the seller much confidence in saying you really want my property. But if you put, $2,000 down, the more you put, the more committed you are, and that lets the seller know. So if if it's $100,000, you want to put $20,000 down, then that lets the seller know, like, hey, they really want my property. But also what it entails is it puts a lot of I won't say pressure, but it put a lot of onus on the buyer to meet all their deadlines. Because if you don't meet these deadlines, you are, you're putting yourself in position to lose your earnest money. Right. So when deadlines, what I mean is inspection. So from January 1 to January 10, you have 10 days, 10 consecutive days. So it's not, 10 business days, it's 10 consecutive days. So January 1 to January 10th, all right, you have to have your inspection. You have to have a reply to inspection. All right. So how it works is 10 days. Once you get your inspection scheduled, that day they come out. Let's say they schedule it on the 4th. On the 4th, they come out, they do the report. 2 days later, 24 to 48 hours, you're getting a report. The next day, once you get the report, typically a day, you have to get a reply back to the seller. So you have 10 days to get a reply back to the seller to let them know, hey, these are the things I want done to the property, for me to accept it moving forward. All right. So once you do the inspection, you have a few options. The first option is you can say, I want the seller to do these repairs. All right. You can say, as a buyer, you can say, I want the seller to do repairs too. You can say, I want a credit. So I did the research, I did my due diligence, and, I got contractors come out here, give me a price for these costs. And I want X amount of dollars for the seller to credit me at closing costs. Towards my closing cost. All right. So that's less money that I have to pay, but just remember, they're not fixing it. So when it's time to, move into the home, these are issues that you're going to have to fix. All right. The next thing is the seller could say, I'm not doing anything. The buyer can say, we accept it as is, or the buyer can say, we're backing out. It's too much work. I don't want to deal with it, and go from there. Now, the next timeline is the seller has 2 days to reply to the buyer's reply. All right. So now we're on day 12. And the seller has the same options. They can say, we'll do the work. We're not doing any work. We can counter with the money, or, and those pretty much are their options. All right. And then the seller has the buyer has a day or two to reply to the seller's reply. Right. Typically, it really doesn't get that much further, especially if it's, something minor. So once that's agreed upon, then from there, it's pretty much you and the lender. So the buyer and the lender, you get together. The lender is going to ask for some more documentation to make sure that you can get approved for the loan. All right. So then you have a mortgage contingency period. So you have to let the seller know, hey, and that's typically 2 weeks before settlement. So if settlements February 15th, on February 1st, we need a commitment to say, hey, you're approved for this mortgage. The lenders approved your mortgage, and you can move forward to buying a home. All right. So the sellers always want to see that. So we have deadlines that we have to meet once you get under contract. So you do not lose your earnest money deposit. All right. And even if you decide you want to back out the deal, which can be done, it has to be within those time frames, because if it's outside the time frame, the seller has every right to go after your earnest money because you're no longer in contract and you didn't meet the deadlines. So it's very important that once you're under contract, you stay on the timeline, or whatever the realtor kind of suggests you to do. You make sure you do, so you do not lose your money. And that's kind of one of my biggest things, is making sure that my clients don't lose any of their funds, when working with, because some things I can't control. I can't control the condition of the home, especially if an inspector says, wow, you got all this termite damage under here. Like, I'm not a termite expert, so that's why you get the home inspection. So for a home inspection, typically a home inspection costs around $1,000. All right, that's out of pocket money that, so let's say you do back out the deal, that you will not get back. So it's very important that, the first time you go through the home, is you try to fine comb it as much as you can, especially if you like it. If you like it, walk through it twice, walk through it 3 times, walk through it 4 times before you make an offer. So these are some things that I think can be beneficial to you, when you're out here looking for a home, especially after you got your pre-approval and you're ready to rock and you got all the money saved to actually buy the home. Trying to think what else that I can give you guys. And again, if you have any questions as we're going along, feel free to I think we're getting close to 8 o'clock, so I kind of want to open it up to, some people as well to ask some questions, and I'll give out, some more information as I see fit. So if you have any questions, feel free to kind of shoot them out right now.
While we wait for some people to either unmute themselves or type your question in the chat box, definitely had some questions. So some common themes that I'm hearing from you, especially for me, having been on both sides at this point as a buyer and a seller, I'm hearing patience, compromise, and being realistic. Like, how important are those characteristics when you're going through this process?
They're huge. They're imperative, because having patience. Again, it can be frustrating. Not getting. We're a microwave society. We put things in a microwave. We want them to come out, done and ready. So it's the same thing when we're looking for something, or we're going to the store and we're buying what we want to buy. Like, I'm the same way. Like, I go to the mall and I go in the store and I want this, I'm grabbing them out. I'm not really waiting for it. So when buying a home, you have to realize that what you're looking for may not be available right then and there, and it may take some time, but just know that it's coming. And just know that, the more patient you are, the more likely you're going to run into what you want. All right. Now, when it comes to compromise, understand that, when you're dealing with, selling anything, there's a negotiation involved. And understanding that anything's negotiable, so, if I wanted the person's, sofa, if I want to buy it off of them, I can buy it, but also understand, if you didn't want the furniture and the negotiation part of the actual price point of the home and what they're going to offer and what they're going to give you, you have to understand that it's not always you. That, you can't, as I call it, you can't rape somebody, excuse my, my terms for lack of better words, but you can't walk away just thinking it's just everything's going to benefit you. So perfect example of sales assist. I have a client, the property is worth 150,000. They wanted full sales assist, so that's 9,000, but they also wanted to drop the price $5,000. All right. So essentially you're asking this person to walk away with 14 grand less than what their house, is listed for, and again, you have to do some comps to see if that price, because again, some prices are higher than what they should be. But let's say the house was priced the correct way and it's comparable to the comps in the area. If you're asking for somebody to walk away with 14 grand less, then more you're more than likely you're not going to get that house. Somebody else, is going to come in and submit an offer, and it's not going to, because I mean, again, that's money that they're losing. So you're asking them to lose less, you ask them to pay less and give more. So did I say that right? You're asking them to, yeah, take away less, essentially. So having patience, having some understanding and some compromise, and understanding that it's not always going to come or benefit just through the transaction. That's going to have to have some understanding as well. And then also, when it comes to the repairs, you know you're not going to always get all the repairs done. Some things you're going to have to say, all right, I can do that. It's not going to cost me that much. It may be a little bit of hassle because you have to get it done. But that shouldn't stop you from getting, a home that you really want, because if you're making an offer, that means you really want the home. All right. So just having some patience, having some understanding, and having some just the ability to be easygoing when it comes to the process. Not saying that it's always an easy process, because it can be frustrating at times. But again, that's what you kind of lean on your realtor for, and he or she should kind of suppress some of those frustrations, and help you obtain the goal that you're looking for.
So you mentioned that you always suggest about 12% to having savings to be able to cover, all the stuff that comes up through the process of purchasing your home. And
Correct.
we always know that saving is probably one of the hardest parts for our people to wrap their heads around and like get that money saved up to be able to make the purchase. Do you have any suggestions for things that they should do when they're looking at their finances or they're in that saving process to be able to really be ready when the time comes?
Sure, cut expenses. It's easier said than done, because we all like living, a certain way, and it's kind of the way society has made us to be, kind of want to, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to live, the latest and greatest, but you also have to understand what's more important. So if you really want to save money, I would definitely recommend, cutting some expenses, and cut out some things that you may or may not need, to reach your goal. And then once you reach your goal, you can add those expenses back in if you can afford it. So it's not really about, a lot of people think it's about, I don't make enough. Now, but in all reality is you spend too much. So I definitely recommend, cutting back on expenses, and going from there. I mean, if somebody makes $100,000, but they spend 99,000 of it, they're broke. But hey, they make $100,000. So people think they're rich when in all reality, somebody that can make $40,000 and really doesn't spend their money well, then they're actually worth more than the person that makes $100,000. So it really comes down to your expenses, and cutting back on those. And honestly, when you cut back on your expenses, it helps your DTI, because you have less expenses, so therefore you can borrow more money, and you can have a bigger mortgage payment, you can get a better house. So it all kind of equates and all kind of works together.
True. Now you talked about with that in mind and thinking about the FHA loan versus the conventional loan. What about grants and other free opportunities? I know there are some special grants that always come out, but are there grants for first time home buyers that are available either like every year around the same time or like all the time that
Yeah,
people?
so grants are out there. Each lender has their own. Some of them has their own grants. The issue right now is COVID. A lot of people have cut back on their grants, especially the city of Philadelphia. They had a grant, a $10,000 first-time homebuyer grant, um, that they um, that they stopped doing, just because they're cutting back on funds, and it's hurt buyers. I mean, that's one of the buyers that, like, I had a listing, and the buyer, he only paid like $2,000 because he used the first-time homebuyer grant of $10,000, and you really have to bring much to the table. So you just have to kind of keep your ears and eyes open for them. They do have some where, depending on your profession, they have some for doctors, they have some for teachers, just depending on your profession. I would definitely, when you talk to your lender, ask them, what programs do they have that, kind of that I can, fit in, or you can fit in, so that's kind of where I recommend with that.
And then I think I had one more. Oh, I lost it. Maybe I lost it. I wrote all over this paper and now I may have lost that question.
No worries, no worries.
I have a question.
Sure. Who am I speaking with?
I'm sorry.
Who
I'm
am I-
Andrea.
Hey, how you doing, Andrew?
Good. How are you?
All right.
So I don't know if you can answer it, but like as far as like what your income is, how much like the bracket that I should be looking at as to even determining if I can afford this.
So, when you mean bracket, what do you mean bracket?
So like if your income is between 50 and 60 grand,
Right.
so how much house could you actually afford? Reason, because I know there's an equation, but I can't remember it.
Right. So it's your DTI, it's your debt to income. So again, you can make 60,000, but if you're spending 50 on, so think of it like this. So if you have 100%, right, your income is 100%, you make 60,000, right, but you're spending most of it on your car note, child support, or credit cards, and therefore the lender's going to look at it as you don't have enough money to pay us back.
Okay.
Right. So that's what they're looking at.
Okay.
That's when they're looking for a pre-approval. They're saying, well, can this person pay us back with all the expenses that they have? Do they have the ability to pay us our money back? Because with the interest that we're going to accrue, with the interest rate that we're going to accrue to it. So what it really comes down to is your expenses. So the less money you owe, the more they'll give you. All right.
Gotcha.
So let's say, for example, you make $3,000 a month, right, and you're spending $2,000 a month. More than likely the equation, they may say, hey, you can only afford $700 a month payments, out of that. So, but if you make $3,000 a month and you're only spending, $1,000 a month out of that 3,000, they're going to say, hey, you can borrow more money because you have more to pay us back.
I gotcha. Yeah. I always worry about that. Like, I'm still wishy-washy on the topic. So
right. No,
do it or not.
Yeah, it really just comes down to, your expenses, cutting back on those, for the period of time till you get to where you want. And then once you get to where you want, if you can add those back in, then do it.
Okay. I got you. Thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Thanks, Ann. And for anybody else who's watching, we had 2 webinars earlier. I think it was March and April that are on our YouTube page that specifically went into credit recovery as well as how to budget. And they definitely mentioned some great things and some tips for saving money, getting your credit score together, and kind of reducing that debt to income ratio for whatever it is that you're getting into. And I think that would include purchasing a home. So if you want some tips, check out those 2 webinars on our YouTube page. And I'll send them to you so you can check them out.
And I do have one more question. So I'm getting ready to get certified to be a trainer, but if I don't want to count that income, but I want to use that money that I earn in addition.
Yeah, so that's not going to be, so is it on your tax returns? Hello? I think we lost.
Cut out on us?
Yeah, I think we lost her.
Oh no, can you hear me?
Now we can. Go ahead.
Okay. So I haven't started yet because I still have some loose ends to tie up.
Okay.
But it will probably end up being probably closer to 2021 where I actually start trying to implement it.
Okay. I mean, yes. I mean, typically what they're going to go off of is, and again, it's the more income you have, the more likely you can borrow. So, you can try not to incorporate that extra money into, but more than likely it's not going to be beneficial to you when trying to borrow more money because you don't make as much. So you can use that income, towards closing costs or whatever you want.
Right.
It's going to deter. It's going to be harder for you to get more money. Get more money. Or more house.
Yeah.
But I mean, and that's also something that I kind of tell my buyers too. Like, if you're approved for 200,000, don't buy 200,000.
Exactly.
Don't be house poor.
Yep.
Don't be just working just to, so if you can, if you get approved for 200,000, go to 170,
Mhm.
if you can, if you find, but you may have to go to 200 to get everything that you want. And that's understandable as well.
Mhm.
But if you can find what you're looking for less than what you're approved for, then I would definitely
Mhm.
recommend doing that.
Okay. Thank you.
No, you're welcome. All right. So I mean, any other questions or any other?
Mhm.
Okay.
I don't have any, and I don't see any in the chat.
Okay. Yeah, and again, just to kind of recap what's going on, what I kind of spoke about, you know. Uh-oh.
Oh.
Oh,
Oh.
okay. Oh, okay. I'm like, what happened? Just to kind of recap, but again, just to get a pre-approval. First, I would say again, get a realtor. Realtor orchestrates the whole deal, so they have the relationships with the lender. So I mean, you could go, with your bank, with the bigger bank like a Wells Fargo, but the only difficulties with that is getting in contact with the actual bank.
Mhm.
With the lenders that I have, I can pick up the phone and call them right away or walk down the hallway and say, hey, what's going on? When you're dealing with bigger banks, it's hard because you're calling a automated service to get to somebody, and that person sending you to somebody else, and then the communication can break down because it has to go through so many chains. So that's why I recommend getting with a realtor who can lead you to their lenders. And again, like I said, I don't just say, hey, go to this one lender. I give you options. I give you 2, 3 options. So you decide who's best for you, because the last thing I want to hear is, Leon, you sent me to this person and they're terrible. And I'm like, well, you chose them, so it's one of those things where, you got to have some responsibility, some equity in it as well. And I don't want, just to be all me, but I will send you to the people. For me personally, I will send you the people that I trust that'll get your job done. So, and then from there, you get the pre-approval, you're out, looking at home, showing some patience, you know, be willing to negotiate, be understanding of what you're seeing, making sure you're seeing some of the hazards before you make an offer. And then once you get under contract and start going through the timeline of the offer, under making sure that you're on time, and that you're getting everything done. So it's kind of like the recap, of kind of, quick synopsis. I could definitely go into this in more detail and go on for a long period of time, but I think we're running out of time. Um, so again, Jessica, I appreciate it. Thank you for allowing me to do this, and hopefully this has been beneficial to those that have listened and those that will listen.
Absolutely. Thank you
Mhm.
so much, Leon. I'm giving you some snaps and some shine.
Thank you.
People
Awesome.
here to claps.
Thank you.
But thank you so much for all of your information. Like, you definitely provided us with a wealth of knowledge, something that I didn't even think about when I bought my first home or when I sold it. So now I'm thinking back, like, wait, did I even think about this? So I appreciate your time and your expertise. For everybody who's on the call or who's viewing online, Leon's information is on the screen right now, as far as his email address and his contact information. So if you are in the market for a realtor, feel free to reach out to him. I have worked with him, and he's awesome. He's definitely somebody you can count on and trust to walk you through this process successfully. So feel free to reach out to him.
Thank you.
And of course, you can reach out to us if you want us to connect you to him. You can reach out to the CEE and we'll make sure that he gets your information as well. So again, thank you, Leon.
And absolutely, like, and as far as social media, I know everybody's big on social media. My Facebook is my name, and my social media is my name. Even include the third in it. So if you want to reach out to me on social media, you want to send me an email, feel free. With any additional questions that you may have, or if you want some help, or if you know somebody else that's looking for help. So my job is more so to provide for the people. It's kind of cliche and corny, but it's the reality of it. So.
Mhm.
Awesome.
Okay.
Well, guys, we are coming to the end of our webinar, but we still have more stuff coming up next month. So check this out next month. We're actually going to be talking about retirement planning, and it is never too early to talk about retirement planning. I know some people who are already hitting close to 40 and don't have a retirement plan and are questioning what retirement will be like for them. So we actually are going to have a representative from New York Life talk to us about, one, how to plan for our retirement, because the sooner you start, the better off you'll be, but also how to make our insurance policies work for us, how to acquire appropriate insurance, and how to make sure that it's benefiting us, not only to cover us when our time is up on this earth, but also how we can be proactive and use those resources now. And while we're still able to. So join us in November. Look for that information coming out on our social media pages, as well as an Eventbrite link and all those other things so that you can come and visit us. If you were at our mini conference in January, you know, we had an awesome speaker from New York Life, Christia Play, and he is now in the management or partnership track. So we're not sure if it will be him, but it will definitely be one of his associates. And they're going to bring all that information and resources to us in November. So look forward to that. Again, stay connected with us. Look at our website, join us on social media, go to our YouTube page. It has all of our past workshops, including credit recovery, budgeting, how to implement or create a side hustle. There are so many topics that you could be making use of during this time. So please visit there. I promise you there's something for everyone. And of course, email us if you have any questions, comments, or anything like that. We would love to hear from you. We also hear about what you want to hear about next. So if there are any topics that you know you want to hear about and other people in your network want to hear about, let us know, because we want to bring those to you as well and continue to be responsive in the work that we do. So with that being said, we want to thank everyone for coming. And again, we want to thank our speaker for being so amazing. And we ask that everybody have a great evening. Enjoy the rest of your night.